Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Bungleby here for MMOBomb.com, and welcome to our intrepid free-to-play podcast, episode 77. I, like I said before, am your host, and I, as the host, am going to be directing you through a plethora of information regarding gaming news. But as my two star pilots, co-pilots, cadets, whatever you want to call them, they're here with me today. We've got Jason Winter and Kevin, no last name. How you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Just to give you an idea how exciting my weekend went, the best thing to happen to me this weekend was I finally found out the maiden name of my great-grandmother.
Really?
That's the highlight of my weekend.
I had a fight with a piece of Tupperware. Kevin, what did you do? I lost that fight, mind you. I got cut up by that piece of Tupperware. It cut me.
I worked a ton, like way too much, and then had something horrible happen. But I'll save that for later. No one needs to dwell on that right now.
Okay. Is it just me, Kevin, or does it feel like our generation seems to work a lot more than we get to relax? But I feel like that's not for a gaming pod. I feel like that's not a topic for a gaming podcast, but it does seem like a overall like theme, at least in America. It sucks for us here in America right now.
Am I including your generation, or am I already one generation beyond?
You know,
you're the stallion. You're too old.
No. You know, we'll grandfather him into this generation.
That sounds terrible.
I don't think that made it any better. At least I was honest.
So why don't we go ahead then and move on to the news so we can get away from how old Stallion is. All right. So in this week's news, starting off, we've got a bit of a downer. Starting off this week with a Debbie Downer. Kartuga. What I thought to be very popular browser-based pirate-themed MMORPG, 3D, real-time. You know, it's got nothing of what is terrible about browser games in it. It's being shut down. Innogames is saying no to Kartuga. Pay no attention to the dog. You may hear yelp in the background a little bit as we talk.
He's very upset about Kartuga being shut down.
He's like chiping in there.
He had like a level 80 player character or whatever. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's Toki, guys.
I can't figure out why something that was so much fun to play and such a beautiful looking game too. Like, it makes no sense to me why they would do this.
Well, they offered up a couple reasons, and honestly, I think the reasons are sort of shallow. I mean, they offered up the fact that they thought it wasn't up to the standard that they had come to expect from their other titles. Now, keep in mind, Innogames is just a publisher. They have worked with a lot of developers in the past, and there are developers they work with consistently to create some of their games. But the large majority of them, say Gropolis, Tribors, I think is another one it's called. But they're mainly browser 2D games, you know, no real-time action, just, you know, turn-based or time-based strategy, if you will. Kartuga really represented their first foray into like dedicated 3D graphics, and they did so in style. It was done quite well, I thought. But they said it didn't live up to their high quality expectations. Now, I've played Kartuga. Jason, Kevin, have you guys played Kartuga?
Yes.
I have not.
Okay.
But I'm just looking at screenshots. I mean, you're right. It does look really good for a browser-based game.
Yeah. With so many browser-based games I've seen that have been around for a long time that have been 2D and very grind-based, this was refreshing. Like, say what you will and have your own opinion about browser games, whether or not they don't offer the true experience that a client-based game is. And this is sort of the discussionary points that I saw in the article when I was reading player and user comments later. But basically, the idea was that a lot of people didn't like it because it was just a browser-based game. And they felt like that contributed to the fact that it closed because it didn't have a big enough audience. Now, I didn't play it after it went in open beta, so I don't really know how big of an audience it had. But it certainly, to me, seemed like it was different enough. You know, it had enough of a presence in that you know what it was trying to represent to do it well. And I felt like if they continued to add to it, then it would have been a nice browser-based niche MMO. But they also Innogames mentioned another reason for why the game closed, and that was due to its apparent lack of cross-platform compatibility. Now, we're not talking about working on the PlayStation 4 or a Mac or a Linux. No, you don't. I guess you don't say a Linux. You say Linux, a Microsoft or a Windows. We're talking about mobile devices, so phones, iPads, etc. Which to me kind of is, I don't know, to shut down a game because you can't put it on a phone.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, and we agree because we don't really play. Probably none of us here really are that heavily into phone games or iPad games. We're
No.
hardcore badass MMO players, whatever. But those are big. I mean, that's uh, social games, that sort of stuff. It's a big thing. We're going to get into that a little bit later too. It's just you wonder why they would have gone to this point to have it go this far if they didn't already have this plan in mind. Like if they had decided we want to make this for for PC and browsers, and we also want to make it for mobile games. Well, and they get to this point, they're like, well, we can't make it in mobile. Well, now we're gonna cancel it. It's like, was this not part of your planning meetings at some point along the way that you could have figured it out before it got to this point, or maybe they had a concept of how much money they thought they were making with it from the PC, from the browser, and then came to the realization they needed something else, wanted to go mobile, saw they couldn't, and kaput.
I actually met with Innogames at E3, and they sort of echoed this whole they wanted to push for mobile, and in fact they pushed their browser games that weren't Kartuga way heavier than they pushed Kartuga, which was surprising to me, given the fact that Kartuga was their newest title, and now I can see why.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of curious, like at that point, what Innogames is now essentially is a game company who develops games that can play on mobile devices that can also play on browsers. Because the point when you can play a game on primarily an iPad and a phone, and you will not develop a game unless it can be played on an iPad or a phone, that sort of makes you a mobile developer, Less, though, in my opinion, than a browser-based MMO developer, a browser-based, game developer, in that sense, where it's cemented to, like, a computer of some sort. So, I mean, Innogames seems to wanted to be transitioning just to the mobile market, and this is sort of their we're doing browser games, but they have to fit into this criteria. Now, I actually don't think Kartuga, this is the last we'll hear of Kartuga, and I want to hear you guys chime in on this. Like, did you feel, Kevin, you played some of it, that it could be picked up by someone else, that someone else could, because remember, Innogames isn't the developer, they're just a publisher. I don't have Go ahead.
I would definitely think that they could get picked up. The real question is whether it would stay browser-based or try to be picked up and converted to a client-based game.
Do you think it would benefit the game?
I think it would benefit the game a little bit, just because there's that stigma of being a browser-based game. So if someone's like, well, we'll pick it up, switch it to client, people will be like, oh, it's client-based, that means it'll have a little better quality, have a little bit more to it, things like that, whether that's true or not. But I with how good it looked for what it was and how much there was to it already, I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, there's a lot of money put into this game. I don't see it needing that much more to push it through.
I felt like it was already a good sort of representation of like what players could expect, and it only would continue to increase in production value as they added in more quests, and more things to do in any game. Content is a struggle for any MMO, regardless of whether it's PC-based, browser-based, or what have you. So the developer was Ticking Bomb Games. That's the name of the developer, who I actually have never heard of previous to Kartuga. In fact, I don't think a lot of people do know Kartuga was actually developed by them. I think Innogames would get a lot of the credit because they're in the spotlight more. But yeah, it really is unfortunate. Hopefully Kartuga resurfaces in the future as either, like you said, a client-based game, or just, under a different publisher. I would think somebody like, trying to think, BigPoint may pick it up. BigPoint is all into browser-based MMOs. That's primarily what they do, but they seem to be going more in the opposite direction of Innogames. Like, both Innogames and BigPoint are creating browser-based titles, but BigPoint is really pushing heavily right now towards, like, using next-gen engines for browser-based. So they're using a lot of heavy Unity-based projects. They have, of course, the upcoming, what's the name of it? It's their MOBA that's a shooter. There's so many MOBAs, I don't remember the name.
MOBA number 38, yeah.
Yeah, well, I played a little bit of it in the beta, and of course it was still in beta, and I can't really talk about it, but it was suffice to say, like, for a browser, they were pushing it in the right direction, all right? So maybe BigPoint can pick it up, we'll see in the future, but I don't really know. I kind of see developers that are trying to add mobile support for their MMOs in the end, does it really add that much to it, or does it just take away time from developing other important features?
I think it's hard to get a game of that level, of that complexity, onto a mobile platform, because mobile platform, people who play on iPads and their phones or whatever, aren't usually looking for something on that level. It's more into the either your quick little match things like your Bejeweled or whatever, your Candy Crush or whatever, or very very quick point and click stuff. It doesn't seem like an MMO on a mobile is just that great of an idea.
True. I 100% agree. I'm kind of thinking more in terms of like adding cross-platform support by adding other features that you can do on the go. Something like, for example, in Neverwinter, you can access your
Sure.
crafting on the go and stuff like that. Doing mobile stuff like that, or doing at least a portion of the development whereby you had a separate sort of experience when you played it on mobile, right? So you still could increase your character, but you had a game or a mini game or something that is set up for mobile-based titles. I think that would be a good sort of like cross-platform where you could still sort of have this ongoing, consistent, progressive experience, but it doesn't have to fit within the whole margins of what a PC is capable of and what a mobile device is capable of. I think it kind of hinders the final product if you try to make it fit for both.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion. Kevin?
I kind of agree.
Thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's... No, I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. All right, so overall, not too good to hear about Kartuga. We wish you the best. Hopefully this isn't the last we see of your wreckage on the bottom of the sea. Second article here, dealing with Age of Wushu, getting an expansion. So as one dies, another one falls or rises to a new height. Jason, I have to ask you, can you pronounce the expansion title for me?
I like to think of it like the karate sound. So it's a Legend of Mount Hua.
Hua. That was.
It's probably Wah actually.
It should be Hua.
Way?
It's got to be Hua. Like,
it's not.
it has to be. Like, I'm saying, I know it's not, but I'm saying that makes it that much better of an MMO expansion when it has a name like that. When it doesn't take itself seriously like that. But of course, it's got to be like Mount Hua. But Hua, come on. Who doesn't want Hua as an expansion name?
Me?
So
You're just no fun.
I'm
Kevin, Kevin, man, you'd like love to be an accountant, wouldn't you? Just like sit there, just like
No, honestly,
grab.
early on in college, that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, so
Man, I call him like I see him. Holy crap! All right, so Age of Wushu's expansion. What exactly are we getting added? Well, if you guys have played Age of Wushu in any amount, you'll know that the game is primarily focused on PvP. It's a lot of PvP events doing with between separate factions and what have you. But this new expansion, it's actually putting the focus on PvE for once, or at least that's what it looks like so far. We don't have a ton of information, but we do have, of course, the release date as well as some of the new features. We've got a new dungeon called Yanmin Pass. Yanmin Pass, yeah. It's kind of interesting. You actually can fight through 5 separate storylines, like seeing things from different angles, which you don't actually get to do a lot in MMOs. You don't get to experience like every perspective. You usually go in just from the perspective that they create for that dungeon. You're fighting from this angle and what have you. So it's kind of cool that they're going to actually offer like 5 separate storylines. You can say, oh, wow, this was happening. These guys were doing this, and this is what they contributed, etc. What do you guys think about stuff like that?
Yeah, it's definitely a different approach. I mean, like you said, having to always just follow the same kind of path that everyone else follows, and if you play on an alt, you got to go grind through those same, story-based stuff or whatever. So anything you can do to break that up a little bit and give you some sort of different path to go along is definitely going to be welcomed. Of course, like you said, in a game like Age of Wushu, where you tend to be more of an open PvP kind of sandboxy kind of thing, you don't usually need that as much. So it's a little peculiar they would put this much of a focus on a PvE kind of experience, but I guess they want to have at least some of that to try and maybe to draw in a few extra people.
I mean, I think even in a PvP game, a little PvE never hurt anybody. I mean, if you look at like EVE Online, for example, as a sandbox game, the game is the majority of the game is PvP, but there's the whole lot of stuff that happens outside of that that contributes to PvP, but also is on its own. The PvE side of like crafting and manufacturing, but then there's doing missions or incursions. So adding PvE certainly, I think, helps break it up even just slightly, even if it is like you could be the hardest of hardcore PvP player, but I think that even having like a little bit of, I mean, there's things in the new expansion that we'll talk about that kind of still incorporate a PvP element into it, but they're primarily based around a PvE interaction. So like I mentioned the Jianggu reputation system. That's what I'm talking about, where players can build reputations with NPCs, and then they can pay them for them to fight with them or to carry out evil deeds against other players. That's a PvE system, but it has a PvP result. And I actually kind of think it's pretty cool. It doesn't really tell you what you can have done to other players, but some things can... what was the... I'm trying to find where I had it written down. There it is right here. The actual levels, as you were, of how much damage you could do to someone if you paid enough. So you can go from showing mercy on someone, which, why would you even show mercy? Why would you pay someone just to go show someone mercy? I don't understand that. And then there's all the way up to too horrible to bear.
So what, you pay an NPC and he goes out and,
you pay an NPC,
beats up another player?
So you get a good reputation with someone by, doing stuff for him, like quests or what have you.
Sure.
You get your reputation up, and you can pay him to do something horrible to someone else. It's like a revenge system, if you will.
So it's PvE with the intent of screwing, still screwing someone. So there you go.
The end intent is to screw someone over. Like, that's basically how all sandbox PvP games is. Like, you could do all this PvE stuff, it's all this masquerade, whatever, but the end result is someone's going to get screwed over. And this is exactly how it happens in this system. So
I feel like we finally have full-blown trolling in a video game. Thank you.
I'm just curious, what too horrible to bear is actually, what would happen? You just kill the player? Because, come on. It has to be, killing a player over and over. You set, a time period. If this player logs in from 12 noon to 10 o'clock at night, just kill him repeatedly.
No, it sends the NPC over with some sort of musical instrument, and he just plays Justin Bieber songs.
Oh.
It follows the guy around playing Bieber.
Can you imagine if, the NPC just ran around the player and, just aggroed stuff to him, nonstop? He could never, rest because the NPC was always running off to, grab a bunch of, fighters or something like that. Because you're never fighting, animals in this game, it seems. You're always fighting other martial artists or what have you. So just, aggroes a bunch of them from a school and, brings them to you. There's a lot of things that I think Too Horrible to Bear would actually be pretty effective at portraying. I'm just kind of curious what exactly they end up adding and how it's going to know. Is someone just going to appear out of nowhere next to you and stab you? Because how is the NPC going to get to the player all the time?
Magic.
All these questions.
I know.
I'm curious. I'm going to have to find a video once it comes out just to see what happens.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to play it, but I guess you were smarter than that, so. I mean, whoops. Ooh.
It is Age of Wushu after all.
Age of Wushu is one of those games where it's you either have to really love it so much we're going to pay $10,000 for an in-game sword before the game even comes out in China, or that actually happened.
No, I know. Yeah.
Or
it cost you that much?
It cost $10,000.
Ah.
That was my money to go to college. I used to purchase that. Or you can play an MMO that doesn't make it super difficult for you to understand the translation and cultivation mechanics. I don't know.
You know someone's going to get on our case for saying this, too.
I know. There's going to be people who love an MMO no matter what.
I love it. I relish them hating me.
No matter how big the warts
feed
are.
on their hate.
Feed on their hate.
Someone's going to love that face. I mean, look at the people, when you walk out in the world and you look at people who are, with other people. You're like, how in the world did they manage to even find a person? And you're like, I see. There's someone for everybody.
Too easy.
Literally someone for everybody. Legends of Mount Hua also has a new item type called treasures. So now you can wear a gold like tub on your head or a basin. Whenever I think of treasures, I think of like the Jungle Book or something like that, like the movie, the live action one where he just goes into the room and there's treasures, or maybe like The Mummy or something like that, where there's so much gold and stuff in a room, you're like, oh, there's treasures, and you just put them on your body.
Just wearing bling.
Just wearing bling, like it's wearing bling before modern day. Just wear treasures. Maybe the rappers have the right idea.
Yeah.
They get extra strength from that. It seems like every rapper that has more gold on him gets more money and more things good that, transpire. So maybe they're onto something. But yeah, you get treasures. How do you get treasures? By doing the most boring thing possible. I don't know. It may not be boring. Who knows? But it's killing a lot of certain NPCs.
Oh, we love this game.
Oh man, I'm just calling it like it is. Like this is a real show. This isn't no like tipsy toe show. I, as you can already tell, do not care for the game. I think it has some issues. But the treasure system does allow people to sort of get extra gear by killing NPCs and then challenging martial art experts who are like mini bosses.
This makes me feel like I'd wear like the gold bars, my brass knuckles and stuff.
Oh, it has your name imprinted into it. So every time, it's got to be backwards though. So when the guy goes to like the local bar after getting beat up by you, his name Kevin is just like spread across his cheeks.
I'm gonna be punching him in the face with a gold brick. Like, how is he going to a bar afterwards?
He's got to drink away his sorrows at some point.
I don't think he's gonna like be able to do much drinking
either.
either.
Through a straw. He can barely like move his mouth. I don't know.
So when the cops find his body, they'll know who did it to him.
Yeah. Legends of Mount Hua. It's going to be released on August 8th for all of those who are not turned off by the game by this point after I've said so many
after our re-endorsement.
Oh, I just looked it up. It's pronounced Hua.
Hua?
Probably,
Legends of
yeah.
Mount Hua?
Yeah.
Legend of Mount Hua, everyone. That's even worse. Hua. It's like you're getting around Hua! Like, that's what it is. That's what it reminds me of. Alright. Path of Exile. Switching gears here. Get it? Grinding gears? Switching gears? You know what grinds my gears? I don't know. Path of Exile adding in-depth Twitch support. So you can stream from Path of Exile now.
Wow.
People stream Path of Exile apparently.
I saw someone was streaming it earlier this week. I didn't know he was using the in-game thing. I just saw that he tweeted that he was streaming it. So maybe that's what he was using.
See, yeah, the actual... Because I've seen, we wouldn't just be talking about a willy-nilly, oh, someone else has added Twitch support. Yay. Because there's a lot of games with it. Planetside 2 has Twitch support. Firefall has Twitch support. And those are the only two main ones I can think of. But Path of Exile makes at least 3.
I was going to mention.
Warthunder also has it, correct. So, but a lot of times they don't give you a lot of options. You can control a little bit of like the frame rate, but it doesn't give you like the full range. And I don't think it gives you the full range of like aspect ratios. And of course, if you ever want to talk to anyone, usually you have to do so by alt-tabbing or having the game running in windowed, so you can see the chat channel in a separate window or something like that. Path of Exile is sort of doing away with that. They're kicking it up another notch. You can play the game while streaming, and it will automatically support webcam and in-game chat. So basically, when someone talks on Twitch, it shows up in your chat box, which is really nifty. But I'm curious, because I stream. Kevin, I know you like to stream some. Jason, I think you're trying to stream or going to stream.
Other way around.
You have hopes or something. One of
The
you
other way around.
is...
I stream some. Kevin might want to stream someday.
Yeah. Okay. There. But
lost your train of thought.
I didn't lose my train of thought. I'm trying to surmise why someone would want to run it in the client versus running it like through XSplit. I mean, there's the obvious benefits, but you're losing a lot through XSplit without XSplit too, I wonder. Granted, XSplit is also very resource intensive if you guys want to stream.
Well, it also just requires more time and more effort and energy to set up. It's just putting it in the game, just having a simple thing you can just press a button for. Basically, it just makes it easier, and that makes it more accessible to more people. It's like comparing old MMOs to stuff that came out after a while. They made it easier, they made it more streamlined, so a lot more people did it, and this is the same kind of intention here.
Well, the one thing I have a question about is and I've always had a question about this. They make it easier for people to stream, which means that there's a sudden deluge of streams, quality ranging from very good to very poor, because you're going to have people who don't have the optimal setup to run the stream. And Grinding Gear Games is doing a good job of like trying to promote their streams of the game, because basically you can link your Twitch account to your Path of Exile account, and by doing so, whenever you're streaming, it shows up on the front page. Now, I went to the front page to test this, but I only saw like 2 or 3 people on the bottom right-hand side that were streaming. I don't really know if that equated to the icons, quote-unquote, they were mentioning. But you could click on them and it did take you to the thing. Now, those streams range. In fact, if I go to Path of Exile right now, which I think someone else was doing it too. I heard typing. If I go to Path of Exile right now, I see that there's 3 streams going on. Again, just 3. So I don't know if that's like the highest amount of viewers, because if you look at the stream currently, I see that they have someone who is Kriparian, who actually is pretty famous. He plays a lot of World of Warcraft, plays Path of Exile, and he's streaming. So he has the most stream viewers, 2,256. And then it goes to 84 and 44. By having such a large amount of people streaming, and you're getting the quality of, all over the place, are you really making a case for streaming, through your client? Because what I'm trying to get at essentially is that you have all these people making streams, and I know it's because Grinding Gear Games wants to, get their game out there more, wants more people to check it out and stuff like that. But in reality, if you're not already using like a full Twitch setup with like XSplit or some other software to stream, chances are you're not like serious about streaming, or you haven't at least up to this point been serious about it, because this wasn't available. And so what's your view count going to be? And so I'm just kind of like, it's nice to see Grinding Gear Games doing that, and I don't know, maybe I'm just cynical, but I just kind of feel like it's wasted. Like overall it's just wasted, because not enough people are going to be tuning in for it to like matter. But it is definitely good on the books for players to see like, oh, we have stream support, we have all these features. But I don't know.
And you call me the old codger.
I
think this is great. I think every game that can do Twitch integration should. Like you said, it is part of the. It is in some level a marketing effort by them to try to get more people out to do this. But it's also recognizing that this is in some way, it is kind of the future. How do we used to share our gaming experiences? We used to write on blogs. Then what did we do? Well, maybe we would upload videos to YouTube. Well, now what do we do? Well, now we stream. Now we show you playing our game live. It's the future, man. It's what PlayStation 4 is doing. They've got like streaming integration.
No, but see, I feel like consoles are a little bit different, because consoles is much more, you're sort of locked into what you can
There's going to be a lot of crappy people with no viewers watching their streams too, so
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, just so you know too, I went on Twitch and I looked up, there are currently 30 Path of Exile streams going.
And what's the range of viewers on them?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there is that.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. The one guy has 2,200 viewers. Next guy is 84.
Like the top viewers...
5 others have double digits, so yeah.
Yeah, it looks like they basically tier them on the front page. So the person with the most amount of viewers gets first, and then it's second and third. So it's not going to be like everybody that's streaming.
Well, like this is not... I did load more. I got all the way down to people 0. Right now, it looks like there are actually 30 different streams going on.
I mean, it's great. I'm glad people are taking advantage of it, but I mean, I don't think that it'll have any sort of like long-lasting effects, overall effects on the popularity of Path of Exile, like the ability to stream Path of Exile. But it's still a good feature, and I like the fact that because you can integrate it with your account, you can even like track who are because they have all the competitions and what have you. They have like races, and you can track who's in a lead and watch the stream applicable to that person. See, in things like that, that's great. I think that's awesome. People who are like professional about the game, they take the game seriously, at least on a competitive level, even in these tournaments or what have you. And they're streaming it, and you can track where they are because you can look at their icons and where they're moving across the map, etc., and click on them to look at the stream. That is cool integration. That is, in my opinion, like more than just like a blanket integration. And I think that's really awesome. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I'm just kind of like maybe if games got to the point where they could have like everything that like XSplit has, where you can move stuff across the screen, you know, you can reposition everything, because a lot of people have like overlays and stuff they use and all that kind of stuff. Then it would be nice. And like you said, Jason, if every game had it, then we wouldn't need XSplit. We wouldn't need programs like that. You could just always stream.
Well,
now,
the thing is, there's still going to be use for stuff like XSplit because it is more powerful. It gives you more options. This is kind of the quick and easy and dirty way if you don't want to mess with all that. It is like, I remember back when Windows machines came out. People were like, what, you don't have to type in DOS anymore? That's just for stupid people. Well, you know, how did that turn out?
True.
But yeah.
DOS was not for stupid people. Windows is for everyone. And
there you go.
Non-stupid people can stream through Path of Exile too, you know? We don't have to be elitist and just go through XSplit. But the one last thing I wanted to touch on was the fact that when the game crashes, if you're running XSplit, your stream stays on. People don't have to reload or anything like that. But when Path of Exile crashes and you're streaming through that, the stream crashes. Things like that, maybe they, you know, if there was like a separate sort of third level, I don't know, service or something like that ran while Path of Exile ran to do the streaming so that the stream could stay open. Those are sort of like small, and these are actual complaints users have had on the forums. Like, you know, suggestions, all right? So I'm not just nitpicking it to nitpick it on my own.
No.
You know, but those are certain things that people do have legitimate sort of like concerns or wishes, you know? And so I'll be interested, you know, to see how Grinding Gear Games continues to sort of iterate on this, and if they'll add more features, because out of the box, it's pretty competitive with what other sort of one button setup, you know, streaming is for other games. So Grinding Gear Games, I don't quite see the full potential or see the full weight of it yet, but I'm going to give you kudos for putting it out, because I do see that as a attempt to, you know, give more features and more options to the player. So kudos to you guys. Now, we have another sort of expansion to talk about. This one for another semi-new MMO. I mean, well, it's like super new if you go by like when it was officially launched. Like, if you go by that date, it's like brand spanking new, like still in the box almost. But if you go by some other news, it's a little bit of a grandpa. Neverwinter announcing Fury of the Feywild expansion release date. Kevin, are you still playing Neverwinter at all?
I have not been back on in a while. I was thinking about it when we were looking at this thing, and I might try it out. I got to get up to 60 still, so.
I'm still in the 30s. I don't think I'm gonna make it.
I
don't even have the game installed anymore.
If I spend a couple days, I can probably get there. Maybe not even a couple days. Maybe one day of actually just serious playing. We'll see.
Jason, when's the last time you went back to Neverwinter?
Maybe after it launched officially.
Well, maybe now's the time to get back in it. Fury of the Feywild, guys. First expansion. It's got trolls, elves, a new city, Sharundar, and mutated gnomes.
Oh, well, there you go. I'm in.
I would be on the fence if they were just regular gnomes, but mutated gnomes, come on.
Are those like gremlins from the movie?
For some reason, I can only picture lawn gnomes.
Lawn gnomes.
That's all I can picture. So I cannot picture normal gnomes or what mutated gnomes would look like. But gremlins would be... See, gnomes aren't furry, so I don't know what gremlins would... Like, I don't know what a mutated gnome would look like. I wonder if you, like, typed into Google right now. Like, if I typed in gnome mutated, because for some reason I wanted to type it backwards, and then I looked at the images...
Are they something you can actually... Are they PG images, or...?
It's mostly just the gnome from not Team Fortress, Left 4 Dead. That's mostly what I see right now.
Oh, there's a gnome mooning you.
I don't see that. I must have safe search on or something like that. I just said
Oh.
mutated gnome. This is I see something called the rump shaker. That's about the ugliest looking gnome. That he sort of looks like those guys from Lord of the Rings. I guess those are the orcs, not the actual like big guys. It's been
Like
a
the
long
goblins
time.
in Moria.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Those guys. That's what it looked like. But yeah, they didn't. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what that looks like. New content's not really that like mind blowing from what I've seen. In terms of like the setting, we've seen elves and trolls in so many MMOs. Like, I mean, give us like giant arcane robots fighting each other or something like that.
Well, they did say that they were, I've looked over their like dev blog a little bit, and they said that at least they're trying to give different environments, trying to at least provide you with different places. Like they talk about the Feywild itself.
What is it?
What was it?
I don't know what it is. I thought it was an expression for a little bit. No, I'm just kidding.
Hang on, I'm trying to find the passage here. Anyway, one of the main requests we receive from players is more visual diversity. Our goal is to expand the creative elements of Neverwinter, so we're adding a ton of stuff, new armors, new weapons, the elves. And I thought they mentioned more about the stuff, but maybe I was wrong. But yeah, I mean, I could see that at the very least when you do an expansion, when you have a really kind of... And let's think about Neverwinter. It really was, most of the parts that I saw were your fairly typical D&D type fantasy world, nothing that really exceptionally stood out. So I think they're trying to bring a more fantastical kind of look, at least.
All right. Now, they are adding what's called basically the new campaign system, whereby players can unlock new neighborhoods in Sharvendar neighborhoods. I always thought it was funny that they use the term neighborhoods. I guess they maybe are the physically neighborhoods in the town, but these neighborhoods will unlock new quests and zones and things for you to do. There'll be a new dungeon for you guys to explore, and new player passive powers. So there's quite a lot for players to do, it seems, to keep themselves busy. Not quite sure how much of that is going to be slightly repetitive. That is one thing I'm going to sort of say. But I do like MMOs that have sort of, even in the PvE content, sort of progression-wise, being able to unlock new zones, new features, what have you. Those are all quite nice, because it doesn't feel like you just like show up and automatically everything is just there and it's all progressed. You kind of like unlock the story for yourself and see things happen based on your changes.
That's kind of how the main city was. The first city in Neverwinter. Like, so you still, well, not the city, but even just all the areas you had to kind of go along. Ideally, in parts, I think you could actually go there.
You could go to them.
That's true. You could go to some. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it seems for this, because it's like centralized in a zone, it seems like this one would, like, them unlocking new areas and stuff like that and new things to do. I would kind of imagine it's like a multi-day process. So you spend one area, one time in one zone, and then you work really hard, and you can see your efforts sort of progressing into this next zone. And all of this stuff in general is going to reward the player with T1 gear for doing some of the solo dungeons and the questing and stuff like that, and then T2 gear for doing I believe the new dungeon on like the hardest difficulty, and they're the new set. So there is both a progression in the sense of story, and then new progression for gear. Because come on, that's what everybody does in game. You play a game to get the gear. At least in a game like Neverwinter, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, what's the actual release date? We've been talking about the game. We haven't actually spouted out what the release date was.
August 22nd.
August 22nd. So you've got two expansions to check out in August. You have Age of Wushu and Neverwinter.
So when did the game actually release? When was it actual launch?
Like
Wasn't
a
it
month
in June?
ago. Like
Yeah, sometime in June.
Like it had like its open beta release, and then you had
Well, yeah, but no,
release,
when did it actually launch?
Neverwinter release date. Here,
The thing that kind of gets me too is it's like, here's all this new stuff, and they're going to charge you for some of it, depending on how much kind of pack you get. And it's only 2 months after the real launch, and we're already asking you for more money. So I know it's a free-to-play game; they have to make their money somehow. But this is like that classic case of when you've got a game that you're working on, you don't get done with everything, so you have You release what you can, and then like a month or two later, 2 or 3 months down the road, you have another big thing, update, or in this case they're calling it an expansion and charging you money for it. And it's that sort of thing where if they're planning it a little different, they would have just launched the game 3 months later and given you this stuff as part of the base launch. But because they have the extra sitting around, they'll package it up, give you a nice expansion, and make more money off it. It's a little,
Well, I mean, keep in mind all the baseline content's free. The extra stuff like the trinkets and the mounts and the race, those are all what you pay for in these packages. Like the expansion itself is free. Like you don't have to pay for it.
Sure.
But people were miffed the fact that the new race that you can play, which I believe is the Moon Elves, number one wasn't the new promised class, which was the Ranger, which they promised to come out, I believe, before the end of the year. So first of all, they're introducing a paid for race before they introduce any new free content in regards to the race or class combination. Who knows whether or not that new race will be added in later on, like after, say, the Fury of the Feywild expansion dies down. They may release it as like a blanket, sort of like everybody gets access to it, but most likely not, because that's typically how cash shops go. But there is that possibility. Now, the release date was on June 20th. It went into open beta in early April, and then it released officially in June. So you had about 2-month period, or 2 or 3 month period rather, for open beta, and then the official release. We've actually just now hit the month and a day mark for that.
It's almost right in between. And we're a month and a day to the expansion.
Exactly. So if they actually kept up this sort of rate where they release a new update every 2 to 3 months, and they sort of packaged these extra packs with them every time, would you feel like that would get old, or is that like a nice sort of like in-betweener? You get all this free content, but we also have these packs you can buy which add a little bit more free content. Or is the content that it's added in that, A, not justify the price, and B, stuff that you would want to have bundled in the free game to begin with? That's the question.
I think trying to pass off a $60 pack, the super deluxe pack, every 3 months or so, that would be a little much, because then you feel like, $60 every 3 months, it's about, $20 a month. I think you'd start to feel like that was a little bit much. The $20 pack, if they wanted to have it be a little smaller and give out something like that, I think that's not so bad. But, just the math of it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, Perfect World has been very, very bad, it seems, with pricing those expansion packs of theirs. I mean, what was it, like $200 for the top tier?
Super, exactly.
The top tier one when it first released. I mean, and they of course they add it was worth like $400 or something.
And
like
it's
that.
so much crap.
I know. It's like, can we see right through it? Come on, Kevin. Usually this would be the point where you'd be like chiming in saying, yes, paying $200 for this pack would be terrible. But
yeah, it's retardedly stupid, actually. Terrible would be a nice way of putting it. I kind of think the idea of them just doing these in general is just really hoping that they can get people to pay for it. I mean, it's nothing that you actually need. So the fact that they keep shoving it means one of two things. Either a lot of people are buying them, so they're like, hey, let's just keep making more because everybody buys them. Or not enough people are buying them. They're like, hey, we need more money.
Think about it this way. Like, how often do you know that a game adds a $60 cash shop item? Because that's essentially what it is. It's a bundle for $60. Like,
I mean, that's like an expansion. It's like having a whole expansion.
It's like a full brand new game.
Yeah,
it's not even an expansion.
Exactly. Well, expansions go, whatever.
Yeah, well,
Pandaria or whatever was $50-$60.
That's the last pay-to-play MMO with full real expansions. The last expansion for Eve was free. Like,
the Rift expansion, I think, was $60 too. Yeah. Anyway.
I think the way of paid for expansions, at least in the $60 bracket, are sort of like the way they do it. Like $15, $30, I can see that fine. But when you're gonna charge, you're gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna give you all this free content for the expansion, but then we also have this $60 thing. I mean, I get it, Perfect World. You want to make money. I'm totally okay with that. I understand the importance of that. I understand your business, but if you want to make money, don't make something obviously not worth $60. Worth for $60. I mean, add that together. I could maybe say $30, $29.99. All right, you could have that. $19.99. I mean, come on. That's the one thing. Like, the brackets between the two are so wide. You got something for $19.99, and then you have something for $59.99. And there's like no step-up point in between. Maybe $19.99 and $29.99 would have been a better price point.
Maybe they just throw darts at a dartboard and like, what are we going to price this? Like, there you go. We got it.
That reminds me, I forget what show it was or something like that, but I remember it was like, what's going to be the story? Like, the story is A, the president is having an affair with B, and he just picks something from like some sticky notes on the wall, and it's like an alien. Like, that's basically like, they're just like, okay, so what are we going to throw in this pack? And they throw a dart, and they're like, all right, a new class and a mount, and how much is the price point? And it goes from like $19 to like $200, and they throw it in and like, $59.99. All right, package it. Let's do this.
I'm thinking that's what's happening.
But you get a bag.
You get a bag.
Ooh, a fine elven silk bag.
Is it fine or is it fine elven?
What's the difference?
It came from very fine.
No one cares.
It's fine
I know
elven.
if I got it from, she was fine.
Or it's made out of elven.
Yeah, is it elven silk like the elves made the silk? Or
is it silk from the hair?
Made out of elves?
Well, silk comes out of a spider's butt, so I don't want to take anything that comes out of an elf's butt and make it into a bag.
Maybe it comes into the giant ears. Who knows? All right, Neverwinter, August 22nd.
Are we done yet?
Yeah. Let's go. Hi-Rez. All right, we're talking about Hi-Rez again. Hi-Rez was in some hot water last week. I think they're still in a little bit of hot water. I think they're still they're starting to prune a little bit. I should mention really quickly that video that I talked about last time. The author of the video would show the sort of issue with the hacking software monitoring that. He did a follow-up where the video actually got removed. It got removed. Hi-Rez or someone removed the video, so he had to re-upload the video in Vimeo for players to actually see that. And it was really suspicious too, whereby anytime he would try to bring it to the attention of people maybe on the support forums of Hi-Rez, it would get deleted. So it looked like Hi-Rez was trying to someone was trying to cover this up. Someone didn't want this spreading, but they're trying to make it up a little bit this week. They're announcing that they're exploring. They're at least trying to make it up by saying that they might make it up by exploring map options for players to create. So basically a map editor. Hey, that's better than nothing.
Yeah, I know. If they're not going to make the content, then let someone else make it.
This actually brings up an interesting point, because mainly free-to-play games don't allow modding. Because when you mod a free-to-play game, no longer do you have to pay for a free-to-play game. Because you can just mod in your own content. And...
Oh, I mean, you look at like the Foundry in Neverwinter, that allows you to... the people make up their own content there. You look at...
But making a Foundry mission versus creating a map is...
Well, you create a map in the Foundry.
But do you actually create a map, or you just drop down modules?
Well, you drop down parts of it. I mean, sure, I get it. But I mean, you could still... if they still wanted to make money, if Tribes did, if Hi-Rez did, if they wanted to make new content, then you do like what Neverwinter does. Neverwinter brings in classes. They make... I guess the zones don't really count as much, but PvE encounters or whatever. Tribes could still be making money, or they could still be making money with Tribes from if they made a new class or if they made a new kind of gun or something like that. That's the sort of thing you can't really... That's totally different from making a map. So
yeah, right now they're just exploring a map option. They haven't really committed to anything. They're just saying that they're going to be exploring the option and don't have a definitive date for any of it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they should do something.
Yeah.
They should have done this,
from the beginning,
a couple months ago, or at least a few months ago when they decided they're going to go into shutdown mode.
Or at least announce. Yeah,
they should have announced this before they announced it.
They had to announce this first, and then
Or at the same time, hey guys, we're bringing out this map editor as a way of saying sorry for what we're about to tell you next, which is that we're not actually going to continue developing it.
There's still that support, this official support, patch that's supposed to come out at some point. That will fix the last bit of bugs and maybe add a couple more official maps. But is it an adequate compromise with everything that's been going on? And let's go ahead and just focus this on not the privacy thing, just on tribes. If you just look at this from the perspective of, has tribes given us enough content, and can players or community members continue to carry the game with that content? Because keep in mind, the original tribes games were very much so carried by community created content. That's how the community in that game at that time survived. Is it, if they make do on it, is it good enough? Can they wash their hands and move on?
It's not good enough, but I think it's what we're just gonna have to accept. I mean, it's gonna have to be pretty thorough for us to just be completely like, yeah, you know what, it's okay, you can move on because you gave us so much for us to work with that we don't really care that you're never gonna do anything more.
All right. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, there's not. It's not like we have any other choices at this point. You know, it's better than nothing. And
let's just hope that maybe it leads to something. I think that's what you could best hope for. That it leads to more community support for more items, more weapons, characters, maps, maybe even modes. I mean, yeah, they said they're not going to support anything past the map editor, but who knows? One thing can lead to another. Map editor can suddenly become something where if you play on an unofficial map, the unofficial map has an unofficial mode. Something like that. It could all lead to something. It could be a rabbit hole. It just keeps going deeper and deeper, guys.
Maybe they can make a DayZ mod for tribes.
That would be hilarious. DayZ with jetpacks.
With jetpacks and like mortars and stuff.
Spin
Yeah.
fusers.
There you go.
I feel like how do you make the zombies stronger? You make them have jetpacks?
Zombies with jetpacks? Oh my god.
Zombies with jetpacks?
Is that like the Sharknado?
I would probably play that.
Sharknado, Kevin. You have to come over here so we can watch Sharknado.
That is still part of the plan. True.
That's still part of the plan. Jason, I'm so glad you remembered that. That's why I downloaded it recently. I gotta watch Sharknado.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Oh, no, it's all
We're
right.
not. We are not.
We are not at all. Jason, you've got some techie numbers to talk about in our next article, don't you? Our next bit.
I do. Readers might remember a couple weeks ago I did an article talking about the size of the free-to-play industry versus pay-to-play. Some numbers I got off a site called Superdata.
Its size? Is it big?
So it's thrust in your face, matter in your mouth. Yeah. But yeah, so what happened is actually the guy who runs the site, the CEO of the company, actually saw the article and reached out to me. So we had a little bit of a phone conversation this week. He sent me his more recent numbers. The stuff I'd had before was the May numbers. He sent me the June numbers that he had. And basically, it's still going up. His numbers, I'm just going to read off the little bits from the spreadsheet here. For June 2013, he says for boxed games, which they break out as PC and console, about $273 million. Now, that's actually down 16% from last year in June. Free-to-play, which I'll get into in a moment, free-to-play $485 million. Pay-to-play $83 million. Now, the thing is, though, you had to explain this to me because I wasn't quite sure how some of this stuff worked. First of all, the free-to-play includes social, mobile, and MMO. So it's not just MMOs. And even the MMOs themselves include games that we wouldn't really think of as MMOs. It includes like League of Legends, Team Fortress 2. So those aren't necessarily MMOs. Let's see, what was the number you had here? Let's see, I think he actually did break down free-to-play MMOs separately, being about $205 million in June, which was more than doubled over last year.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So he actually broke it down for you then, like two just simply MMOs.
This is, because free-to-play includes social, mobile, MMO, that 484 I said. Just free-to-play MMO is 205, but as I said, MMO does include, in his case, League of Legends, Team Fortress, stuff like that. So, it's not quite, we're not just talking, whatever, I don't know what free-to-play, Rift, or what's the big free-to-play MMO? Like straight-up MMO, DC Universe, Ion, stuff like Lotro, that sort of thing. So the $205 million does include a lot of stuff from League of Legends and so on. But even so, that means that free-to-play gaming, as we kind of know it, is $205 million, pay-to-play at $83 million. So it is still kind of like that. It is still double that kind of number. So
now, is this just for North American audiences?
This is just America, United States.
Okay.
So not even Canada. We don't even count them. They're just America's hat.
But free-to-play is much larger in Asian countries as well. So once you
That is
consider
true.
all of that, then it's probably exponentially larger.
Oh yeah, yeah, and he also says too, he gets some real numbers from companies, but a lot of times he has to sort of improvise and use estimates and use their own models to try and figure it out. So, yeah, this isn't all exact numbers, but when it's 205 million for one and 83 million for another, they're probably in that ballpark. One is still probably a lot bigger than the other, even if it's not exactly those kind of numbers. So it's really amazing to see that sort of. A few other things he said there were. Among American MMO subscribers, we recorded a monthly spending on in-game items of $24 in June, up from $17 in December. So even just in 6 months, they said free-to-play spending basically was up, like, whatever that is, almost by a third.
$24, man.
$24 for average person, yeah.
So we're already, like, past what a normal subscription would make. $14.99 a month.
Yeah,
already
exactly.
like almost double that essentially.
Gee, and you wonder why companies are doing this.
Yeah. You wonder why people get. People say like, oh no, WoW would never go free to play. Because WoW, they have all the subscriptions, blah blah blah. What if WoW went free to play but made you pay for expansions? If these numbers are correct, that would mean that A, they would get more money per month on average, and B, people could still pay for the expansion. It seems like a win-win for that.
That, and they would get more people. Going free-to-play gives you more players straight up, so...
Exactly. Who knows? Maybe this early microtransaction thing that they did in the past.
I do wonder, exactly, now that I'm reading exactly what it says here, I wonder if those are for people who spent money, spending $24, because, sometimes you play a free-to-play game, you don't spend anything, so maybe that $24 is not the average of all players, just average of those who spent. So I'm not quite sure on that, but...
Still, that's still a lot of money, and it's more than double what pay-to-play is, so certainly it's working for someone. Mm-hmm. All right, well, thank you for that update. This should be like a monthly thing that you do.
I think I'm probably going to do that. He said it'd be just monthly reports, so
Yeah.
I'll probably do those as a regular thing.
You can kind of... Does it break it down to individual games, or is it just
No,
overall?
he lists like a top 3 for stuff.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, maybe we'll have like an economic report of the free-to-play.
there you go.
We'll add like a little banner, like the little like breaking news.
Little ticker. There you go.
Yeah, from Jason Winter. Exactly. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and move on to our weekly bombs then. In this week's weekly bombs, I myself am going to give an A bomb to Comcast for charging me $250 to install "quote unquote" extreme internet.
Extreme.
It's got to be extreme. So, by the way, guys, I watched the guy install it. He did the exact same thing as like anybody installs internet anywhere. He came in, he plugged the modem in, he typed in a couple of themes. He didn't sing me a song or shred metal on a guitar. It was not an extreme experience. It was just him plugging in some wires. So I actually plan on recording my call to the customer service and expressing my displeasure and seeing if I can get them to sort of like state why you need the $250 for the extreme. Like what exactly he does that's different. Because as I saw, there was nothing inherently extreme about the experience.
Are you getting an upload now of like 50 megabits per second or anything?
No.
No.
It's the exact same as where I was previously, which was 50 down and I believe 15 up is what
15,
I get.
well, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's still pretty good. I have to for streaming.
Sure.
But even with that, I still there are times where I don't have a large enough bandwidth, even with 15 up, because it gets me about 4.6 megabytes a second up, which sometimes for the game is just not enough. So that's my A-bomb there. I'll keep you guys posted whether or not the Comcast sort of heist or ruse or whatever you want to call it is successful. Jason, what's your A-bomb to bomb?
I have an A-bomb for the Steam Summer Sale.
Really?
Not because
An
there's
A-bomb?
An A-bomb, yes. Not because there's anything wrong with the Steam Summer Sale, but because there are so many things there that I feel like I should buy. And they're so cheap, and so many things I want to play. I just have too much crap already that I still have to play. So I'm not buying. I bought the old expansion for Civilization. I bought Gods and Kings, and that's all I'm doing.
That's all you did?
That's what I'm limited. There were probably another 10 games that I was like, oh man, I've been meaning to play that. I haven't, and it's only like $10.
I bought two. I bought the Extreme Edition. No, I bought the full edition of Fallout New Vegas, And
that was one I wanted. That was
yeah.
one I thought about.
I started playing a little bit, but I added a bunch of mods to try to like fix a lot of the issues that I knew the game had, and I ended up where I can't enter one building because it automatically crashes. So I'm gonna have to like reinstall it and start from scratch, and see if I can get that working. Now the other game I bought was Dark Souls. I finally got around to playing Dark Souls, and it is freaking hard. All right, Kevin, what is your A-bomb to bomb?
Okay, then the reason why I was not super happy earlier. So I'm giving an A-bomb to homeless people who steal your prescription sunglasses after you kick them out of your store for being shady. So the story is as such. For those of the viewers that haven't figured it out already, I work at a game store. All kinds of games. So I was working today. Ooh, big surprise. Do a lot of that lately. But I have pretty bad eyes, damage from lifeguard and stuff when I was a kid. So I have these prescription sunglasses. I always put them in the same spot on one of the counters. Meanwhile, so this guy walks in and walks to the very back of the store and then pulls them out of his pocket, sits down, and starts to walk back out of the store. I'm like, whoa, what was that? And I try to try to figure out. He's like, oh, I'm leaving candy for people to come play. I'm like, no, you just pick that up, take it, and please leave. Because we didn't really know what it was. Candy could mean so many different things.
From a homeless man.
Yeah, it was a little shit. We're just like, what? We don't really need any of that. And I had seen him before. He carries around like 2 garbage bags with him. So I was like, what? Just can you please leave? And then he starts getting defensive. Like, what did I do? I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what you were up to, and it seemed a little suspicious. I'm just gonna ask you to leave nicely before I call security. So he of course continues his fight. So I actually grabbed the phone to call the security, and he like stumbles into the counter near where my glasses are, and then leaves. I figured it was just a stumble. As I closed up, I realized, nope, the guy had stolen my sunglasses. It was awesome. So I got to call the cops and deal with that. They found the guy, but of course he didn't have them because being prescription, he probably tried them on, realized that they made his eyes look all weird, you couldn't see out of them, and probably threw them away. But, yeah, awesome day for me. Really love it when that happens.
How much do prescription sunglasses cost?
Mine were $300 for just the lenses for what I need.
Ooh.
Because I have to have a certain level of polarization in them, my prescription, and have them custom done and stuff, so.
Ouch.
Yeah.
No fun for you. Do apologize for that, Kevin. Seems
Yeah.
like you have had the worst of luck lately. But why don't we hear what the luck of the users have been? I wonder if they fared any better than Kevin.
One would hope so.
Kevin, why don't you actually take the first?
Okay, the first one is from a guy named Daniel. He knows his own last name, so he's doing an A-bomb to Hi-Rez because they keep killing their games. The Global Agenda was an awesome game, and they killed it, making things even that we, the buyers from before the free-to-play, had access cash only. It completely killed the game, and they're doing the same pay-to-win tactics with tribes, and it will probably happen to Smite too. Someone take their IPs from them before they cause even more damage.
They only own one unique IP, or one non-unique IP, which is Tribes of Sin. Everything else was original to them. I think.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Either way, I've heard about that too, where they just make everything pay to win. Yeah.
I'll take the next one. It's really easy. It's from a guy named Sick of MOBAs, who says, "I'm sick of MOBAs. A-bomb to all MOBAs."
Oh, straight and to the point.
Honestly, that kind of seems like the overall like community feeling towards MOBAs. Like, I'm really afraid to do MOBA first looks right now or post news about MOBAs because 9 times out of 10, most of the comments are going to be like, "Ah,
Another one.
MOBAs!"
Kill it. Kill it with fire.
I'm just like crying as I like type it in. Like, I'm sorry, guys. MOBA news. That's my Smokify crying while typing voice. It kind of sounds like a Muppet. It doesn't sound like a person.
A little terrifying.
I've been told I sound like Kermit the Frog sometimes.
Really? Can you do his voice? Let me hear it.
Kermit the Frog here.
Kermit the Frog. I know.
Anyway.
Wow.
That was a Down syndrome Kermit the Frog. Jason.
I'm glad that was recorded.
All right.
Jason.
Mine is from Kinetic Fetus, who says, I'll be giving an A-bomb to Firefall. I re-downloaded the game, got in, and couldn't get past the tutorial. Screen went black. A problem I didn't encounter in closed beta. Maybe that's Firefall's fault. Maybe it's your fault for your computer or something. I try not to get too down on a piece of software if it doesn't run, if it just crashes on me. So
there was a rogue Windows update that was causing people to have issues with playback and videos in their games. You can find out about it on Reddit as well as on the internet. Just search Windows Update Screen Black Video Games or something like that, and it should find it. I actually had to uninstall that update. For me, it was affecting my ability to encode videos. It would actually show the video like in half, like only the bottom portion of the video. So it may be a problem with that Kinetic Fetus. I would recommend maybe trying uninstalling that update and see if that fixes the issue for you. Just something that I would want to impart a little bit of knowledge to you guys. Maybe it'll save you if you're like, why is only half of this video playing? Or in the case of Kinetic Fetus, nothing at all. It's a little word of the wise, or heads up. Question of the week for the viewers from last week was, what info are you okay with game developers collecting from players? What do you want them snooping around of? Airsplash, he says, when it comes to what info game companies want from me, I'm a little lenient. I don't mind a survey when I'm signing up for their game or beta, and I don't mind if it's an in-depth survey. Kind of like when you sign up for the Elder Scrolls Online. If I can help you get better statistics on your community from a survey, sure, I'll do it. You would like to know what games your community has previously played? Okay, I'll type it out and fill out a bubble. Want to know my system specs? Sure. I built this myself, and I'm proud of it. Want to run a small scan to see how your game affects my computer? Pushing the boundary a little there, but I'm fine with it. But just don't shove it down your players' throats, and make sure your game does nothing on my computer. When it's not open and being played, besides sit there and wait to be played, you need to know your boundaries as a gaming community. I feel like I ran that system. Yeah. When it's not open and being played, sit there and wait to be played. Yeah, that was one sentence, and then it was, you need to know your boundaries as a gaming community.
It's company, not community.
Oh. Whoops. That's what happens when you try to read a whole paragraph enthusiastically. You miss
Know your boundaries as a gaming company. Yeah, that says it in a nutshell. You do. I mean, we've had so much of this, the internet, privacy things, Patriot Acts, and all, I mean, for years now, and it's a huge issue. With the whole WikiLeaks on the NSA, with the phone calls and all this, that it's... Yeah, he nails it right here. You need to know what's okay and what's not, and it seems like so many companies don't. They just try to get away with everything they can.
He really does break it down quite well.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much agrees with me. I don't mind just about anything as long as I have the right to shut it off.
That's pretty much that's pretty much how it is. I mean, people essentially can go about, playing a game with giving minimal information that allows the game to understand how to be played. But developers don't need to know what favorite sites you like to go to or anything like that. They don't need to know anything other than what they need to know to make their game better for you as a player. Mm-hmm. Run better, function better, etc. Jason, why don't you go ahead and take the next question?
All right. This is from Mitzi AJ.
Really?
First, that's what I think. I think
it's TJ. It's the same.
It's ITS TJ. It's TJ. I was thinking it's a Mario. It's a TJ.
Didn't I do that last time when he wrote?
Yeah.
I think that's 2-1, Kevin.
This is why I used to have a Twitter handle that nobody could pronounce, so I changed it. So this is the exact reason why. Anyway, first of all, he says, I'm seriously looking forward to the Hello Kitty Online video. Oh, God. Why did I even bring that up?
We're going to work on that tomorrow.
Shut up.
I've been playing it today. It was awesome.
It's coming.
Then he goes on to say, as an answer to the privacy question, I feel that filling out the create account information along with computer specs would be acceptable. The problem with them looking at my information is they would be so amazed and awestruck by the majesty of TJ. All right, fine.
I win.
They wouldn't be able to find their ban button due to the blinding light of awesome that is me. Wow. TJ, I bow before you.
TJ's a little pretentious.
But who's to say he's wrong?
It's pretentious TJ. Nah. I kid, TJ. You are awesome. You liked Hello Kitty Online video. I mean, come on. Anybody that likes Hello Kitty Online and wants to see it in a video is awesome. So, obviously, it's TJ. You should totally join us for this video. I know you're not going to get this before we actually record it, but I like you.
Maybe we'll play it a bunch. We'll form a guild.
You know, actually, as we wrap this up here, that brings me. I would like to actually get a community event going on, whereby everybody from the cast, the cast can get together, play with members. You guys, we can all live stream it. We can play a game that everybody likes. We can play multiple games. We can get it all in. We can basically just make a full day out of it. I would think. We're gonna have to talk about this in the future, son. I'm going to have to start grinding some gears together. And
give us suggestions for what you guys would want to play with us.
Yeah, totally. Like, list the games. List what games you would like to see streamed with us, play with us. We typically try to go for games, or we would go for games that are large, meaning that they can host a lot of people. Obviously, that means some shooters, but not too many Dota or League of Legends, because you're only going to get 10 people at a time. And with 3 of us, that means only 7 community members. So keep that stuff in mind when you suggest that. All right, but this question of the week for this week is going to be, are there any mobile features you would like to see in cross-platform games? So we're talking about mobile features in cross-platform games that involve mobile and PC. And I'm not talking about just browser-based games, but also client. Are there any mobile features you'd like to see? So would you like to have an app on your phone that maybe has a mini-game or a side separate game that affects your main account? And if so, what kind of features would you like to see? Leave them in the comments below. Send them to me in an email, michael@mmobomb.com. But otherwise, that's going to be a wrap, actually. This has been episode 77. Guys, thanks for coming on. Jason Winter, Kevin, go ahead and give your usual lines of social media contacts, if you will.
Sure, you can find me on the Twitter @WinterInformal, and also streaming at Twitch TV/JasonWinter.
And Kevin?
You can follow me when I remember on Twitter at no social media K. Usually I rant about things that happen, like hobos stealing my stuff. Yeah, and for those followers, there will be something headed to it shortly. I am working on it. You all know what it is, but yeah.
Ooh.
And for those of you that want to follow me, it's @Spunkify, and sometimes I tweet about my love for Udyr skins and feeling sick without insurance. That's my I have to like scroll down and look at my most recent tweets. That's kind of what I've been tweeting about. But I'll tweet about other things, and certainly if you tweet at me, I will tweet at you back. @Spunkify, SPUNKIFY. For us, the cast of the Free to Play podcast, we thank you for listening this full, complete hour. Lots of good stuff. And until next time, we'll see you for the next episode here of the Free to Play podcast. This has been Spunkify. Spunkify out. Later, guys.